and ain't no wannabes here. With some not so nice advice for your writing career. To be clear, no punches will be pulled, but the punch may be spiked. How they like before they get on the mic. To my left we got the mighty Mur Lafferty, and if I piss her off, believe me, she'll come after me. And her co-host Matt Evan Wallace on the right. Yes, she may be half as hype as she can take him in a fight. So settle in, folks, buckle in and boot up. Time to meddle in a way to make you writer shut up. It's hard work, but the perk is that it's fun and exciting. Facebook will still be there when you're done writing. Ditch Diggers! Ditch Diggers!
Coming to you live from Jeff Goldblum's... Fuck, what do we say?
Free range Panther...
Habitat.
Habitat, there you go.
Free range, because we were gonna do Panther enclosure, but then we decided he wouldn't have his Panthers enclosed. So the free range Panther habitat, that is where we are, and we're the Ditch Diggers, the stone cold pros that won a Hugo, Matt and Mur. And we have special guests.
That was the greatest intro ever, first of all. That's like
I think
definitely a highlight reel. We do have special guests, and I'm very excited. Because I enjoy both of these people personally, but professionally, I also work with them. Because many hats, Mur. We've discussed the many hats on the show before.
Yes,
and
many
one
hats.
One of my hats is as a book marketer for the fantastic Parvus Press. And we are thrilled today to have one of the founders and the head honcho of Parvus Press with us, Colin Coyle, and one of Colin's premier authors, known to the public as RJ Theodore, but conversationally, we will be calling her Rekka. Hello, Rekka and Colin.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Mur. Glad to be here.
Colin,
Thanks for having me on.
Does your business card say head honcho?
It does not. I wasn't actually aware that I was the head honcho until just now. I thought I was just one honcho amongst a small pool of honchos.
How many honchos can one business have?
Well, it's not a very large pool, right?
Okay.
Because safety first. We're not very coordinated people. But there's basically two primary honchos, right, at Parvus. So kind of like that World of Warcraft two-headed ogre thing, I think. It's myself and Colin Considine who handles all of our acquisitions and basically keeps me on a leash and makes sure I don't do anything stupid.
So it's more of a honcho spa than a honcho pool.
I would totally go to the honcho spa.
Honcho sauna, maybe?
Honcho sauna. Next time we'll be coming to you live from Jeff Goldblum's honcho spa.
I'm going to write this one down.
You know he has one. Like in his basement, you weren't expecting it, and you get down there, and there's just like a cedar box.
With Panthers in it.
No, he does not keep the Panthers enclosed. We've established this.
We have, no, but they would choose to be in there. They are choosing of their own free will to be in the honcho spa/sauna.
It's free range, right? The humidity is good for them.
And then they can wander back out to the Panther Dome when they want to do all their things.
Yeah. I love the idea. This is so stupid. It has nothing to do with anything. I love the idea that all over Jeff Goldblum's palatial estate, there are Panther doors that allow the Panthers access to everything. Because Jeff Goldblum will not allow the Panthers to have anything less than total access to every part of his establishment. So literally every door in Jeff Goldblum's house has a Panther door in it.
Are you sure they're Panther-sized doors, like inside the regular doors, or are there just biometrics that understand that the Panthers are allowed through?
I was thinking the former, but now that you said that, it absolutely has to be a latter. There has to be biometric
Actually,
devices
I'm just thinking of like the garage door that's closed only to the point that a Panther can slide under it.
Because Jeff Goldblum's old school.
Yeah.
No, I like the biometrics thing. You know why I like the biometrics thing? And again, we're spending way too much time on this, but I have to do this last bit. I like the idea of the biometrics thing because if someone wanted to break into Jeff Goldblum's place, they would try to recruit a Panther to turn on Jeff Goldblum. And you know what? The Panther wouldn't do it. There isn't a single Panther. Yeah, exactly. There's not a single Panther that would betray Jeff Goldblum. And I just like that thought for some reason.
Matt and Mur, all I want out of life is one of those theme park style maps of the Ditch Diggers verse that shows Morgan Freeman's palatial estate, Jeff Goldblum, his Panther habitat. I want that on my wall.
We actually have someone who started one of those for real. Actually started to map out the whole thing before we relocated from Morgan Freeman's estate. So we need to get that updated.
Yeah,
and that should be we need to make that a poster and we need to sell it. We need merch, We need merch.
We need merch.
And then we need to get it nominated for best fan artist. Besides winning in all the categories.
That I could retire after that. I really could. I could never do anything again and be perfectly happy. But we are not here today, folks, to talk about Jeff Goldblum and Panthers, although that needs to be its own podcast.
Really?
I can't. We are here today to talk about indie publishing, because that's what you do, Colin. You are an indie who publishes. Is that a fair categorization?
That's very fair, yes. So Parvus Press is a very small publisher of fantasy and science fiction. We were founded in 2016. We're coming up on the close of our third year of doing this publishing rag.
That is pretty amazing in this climate and in this business, if I may just say so. And again, I prefaced all this by saying I'm employed by Colin, so you obviously can't trust anything I say. But I think the audience knows me well enough to know that I would not work for anyone who was not a genuine business person and did business well, because I have very little tolerance for those folks. In fact, one of the things that impressed me so much about you, Colin, is that you have a real company with real capital that pays people real money in publishing. What a concept!
We have real dollars that we use to pay for things. I've said this to Matt a couple times, right? Like, we believe very much that if we're going to ask someone to do something, we need to be able to pay them to do that. If we can't pay them to do that, we're not at a point where we should be asking people to do things. So
I want to tattoo that on someone's forehead. I don't know whose. You don't deserve that. But that's just such a fundamental thing that is so often glossed over in this, even by large publishers. The idea of paying people a fair wage to do the thing you need them to do so you can make money off it. It's just such a fundamental concept that is so often overlooked.
And that's not to say I'm not going to lean on people to like give us a discount rate. We will. I mean, we're upfront. We're a small business. We're not flush with, Uncle Scrooge money bin kind of money. But we will be once everyone discovers the glory that is RJ Theodore and FLOTSAM, one of the single best space opera-y, science fiction-y, fantasy mashup, genre-crossing adventures ever written.
That was the single best segue we've ever had on the show. And that's not saying much because we're horrible at segues, but we have a tradition of acknowledging segues when they happen, so I had to acknowledge that.
Yeah, I'm partial to that one.
That was really good.
That was a good one.
So speaking of FLOTSAM, Rekka, please tell us more about FLOTSAM.
Well, FLOTSAM is the story of an airship crew of smugglers who have to make the tough choice between getting a payday and saving the world from conspiracy, cultists, gods, and an alien invasion at the same time.
Wow.
Because you're on Ditch Diggers, I'm pretty sure you went with payday, right?
Well, that was their angle, yes. That was their preference. Didn't work out so well that way, no matter how many times they tried to avoid the plot.
Damn it.
See, that plot resonates with me personally because I have to make that decision at least once a week. Usually around Thursday. I don't know why. Don't ask me.
On behalf of all humanity, Matt, I thank you for constantly choosing to save the world.
It's a burden, and I'm sure I'll have a bad week eventually, so we should enjoy the ride while it lasts. No, FLOTSAM is a fantastic book, Rekka, a fantastic author, and I'm really happy to have both of you on the show. I have so much I want to get to. Thank you, Colin, for that brief overview of Parvus. That was essential to, laying the foundation. But there's so much, there's such a stigma around publishing and indie publishing in particular. I think there's so many misconceptions about small presses and independent presses and how they work and what they actually are. Colin, I was really hoping one of the things you could do for us today is kind of take us through the journey of founding an indie publisher and how they work. Like, what happens when an ordinary person decides I want to become a publisher and then actually carries that through the end? Could you kind of take us through that?
Yeah. So it's a journey in small amounts of insanity, kind of doled out over long periods of time. So, I had no publishing background when I decided that I wanted to launch a publishing company. What I did have was a lifetime of love for genre fiction, and I felt a fairly critical approach to reading. So I've always approached stories just kind of as their own art. Like, I love stories. I love the adventure that a book can take you on, or the way that after I finish a novel that's completely make-believe, I can actually sit back and go, what did I learn about myself by having participated in that? So from that perspective, I felt that I could pretty confidently pick out good books. And the whole objective around starting Parvus, which changed quite fast, was that we were just going to take what we had, which was an eye for a good story and some dollars. And we were going to find great artists and find great editors and just find talented people and bring them together and help essentially finance a book. Once we started doing that, we learned pretty quickly that that was a great way to produce pretty bad books, right?
Oh, wow.
Like, I've got money, and I'm just going to get people and go, here's money, and make a book and bring it back to me. So once we had just started getting our first couple of submissions in, it was pretty clear that it was going to have to be a lot more involved, right? Like, the idea was get books that are just ready to self-pub and just need a little bit of extra love. But that's not how you market books, right? I mean, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes meeting people and building relationships and dedication and all that stuff. A cover art isn't just, let's go to 99 Designs and go with the mid-tier and hope we get good art. It's researching the right artist for the right book, and the genre expectations around what you see when you look at that front cover, right? And make sure that the cover promises the right things to the reader for when they open the book. Things got really complicated really quickly.
You learn that it takes a lot to do this job.
A lot. And I guess like the big takeaway and lesson for that is we were really upfront with everyone that we were learning about 99% of this while we were going, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to put on a juggling show. I don't know how to juggle yet, and I got a unicycle. So I'm going to learn how to ride the unicycle, and I'm going to learn how to juggle. But trust me, it's going to be great. So everyone just come sit down, right? And we're gonna do a good show for you. So we were upfront with every author who submitted to us that we were learning, right? We had passion and we had interest, but ask us questions, ask us hard questions. You should expect us to answer them to you like direct and fair. And if we weren't able to satisfy your curiosities, then you shouldn't trust us with your books, right? And I think Rekka saw that process firsthand and really kind of nailed us down hard in her experience as, all those years of like being a writer and finishing a novel, but researching what you have to look out for. And I think Rekka can speak to that piece of it pretty well.
Again, fantastic segue.
Yeah, I was planning, Colin didn't mention, I was planning to self-publish this book to begin with.
Oh.
So it sort of became a accidental stumble into submitting it. And everything that Colin said, especially about their, not so much the inexperience wasn't the part where I was like, let me sign on for that. But it was about their willingness to explore, new techniques to try and sell books versus an established industry of professionals who might be inclined to say, well, we've always done it this way, which is not anything I wanted to do. So, the story of submitting to Parvus was that, as I mentioned, I was going to self-publish it. And then the December before I ended up submitting it to Parvus, which was this was December 2015, I woke up one day to a news story about how Amazon was just closing down people's Kindle publishing accounts. Right. And people weren't able to get them back open or weren't able to get them back open in any expedited way. And so it just kind of seemed like, maybe I don't want to go this entirely alone. And so my developmental editor that I had contracted at the time was working for Parvus, and I said to him, I think I'm just going to submit this. And he's like, do it, because that's what he always said. And and so that afternoon I submitted it to Parvus. Now, as I mentioned, my developmental editor worked for Parvus, so I thought this was going to be a great opportunity for him to show me a life lesson and that I'd get a rejection, honestly. And so I I was expecting a rejection to come in, and then I would move on with my life and go back to the plan of self-publishing it. So I submitted it and then just continued on with my life. Like, okay, well, I've done that. I'm just waiting for the rejection to come in. Let me get back to my production schedule. So I did. And then one day I got a message, I believe a phone call. And it was Colin Coyle of Parvus saying, please, I noticed you blogged about hiring somebody to write your sales copy. Could you please stop spending your own money on this book for a minute? just like give me a couple of weeks, please, and stop investing in it, because if we can work this out, then somebody will be helping you with that. So so then we began a series of conversations about what it might be like to publish FLOTSAM through Parvus Press, and he was excited about the book. And it was gratifying to me to hear someone else as excited about the book as I was. Everyone else in my life was kind of tired of hearing about it at that point, really. And so I just partially followed my gut, and then partially, pushed back on a few things in contract writing land. And we worked out something that I was satisfied with, and I was excited for the enthusiasm that Parvus was going to bring to the process.
That's great. I love how that both of those stories, Colin's and Rekka's, are stories of having your expectations completely subverted going into this process. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important lesson for everybody to take away. Another observation I just wanted to make is I think that, like, in publishing, particularly in any publishing, something there isn't enough of, and something that I think is really necessary, is good faith and transparency.
Yeah.
And what I like about Colin, what she did with Parvus, was you put those things at the forefront. I mean, obviously, you need to follow those up with, like, learning to be a good publisher and having talent and all that stuff. But I really think if you start with good faith and transparency, that it gives you a lot of room to grow in the right direction. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, we screw up all the time, right? But everyone does. Everyone and everything they do is constantly screwing up. So, if you are, like, open and honest with the people that you're working with, there's no reason to try and hide those screw ups, right? They can be resolved quickly. They can be learning opportunities. I think Rekka. So something I hate paying people late, right? Like, you did your work, you gave it to me on time, you deserve to get paid on time. But Amazon changed some of their reporting for international sales on us, like right when we had to do royalties. And I think it was Rekka's first statement. So I had to shoot her a note and be like, I will show you all the data that I have so far, so you know that there's data here. But we're struggling to figure out how this reporting has changed midway through our reporting cycle. So it's going to take us another week or two to get your statement out to you. So I don't want to speak for Rekka and say that she was totally cool with that, but, like, the fact that we're open and straightforward with everyone, it gives us a little bit of latitude when something outside our control comes up, that it buys us the leeway that we need to move forward as a business.
Rekka, were you totally cool with that?
I'm still mad at him. I still haven't forgiven him. No, it's fine.
Subjugate myself, please.
Let's take a moment to appreciate that I haven't earned out my advance yet, and I'm getting statements, so I'm not going to complain.
No, fair, all day. Colin, you brought up something really interesting I would like to talk about. I'd like you to talk about being an independent publisher dealing with Amazon, because everyone has to. It's, like, unavoidable. And for anybody out there who has an indie press or thinking about starting one, I'd just like to hear the pitfalls, the challenges, the necessities, just your experiences dealing as an independent publisher dealing with Amazon, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we distribute our books digitally in two ways, right? So we distribute to Amazon directly through KDP, just like a self-published author would. The great thing about that is that there's a world of resources out there from folks who listen to this podcast, sharing, their information, their experiences. The bad thing about that is that Amazon doesn't give a shit about us or who we are or what we do.
I don't think they give a shit about anybody. They can afford not to.
Nope. We've sold a healthy number of books, and it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of Amazon. Where we have had a lot more care and attention and joy, and I don't want to make this like an advertisement for anyone, but Draft to Digital has been an amazing partner for us, distributing to all the other digital markets, so Barnes & Noble and Kobo and Apple iBooks. They have been proactive in reaching out to show us opportunities to promote books through new channels. They've been, they're a group of people that are really trying to grow their business, and they recognize that it's individuals like coming to them with books that are their business. So I don't at all mean to shit on Amazon. They are by far the bulk of our sales, but Draft to Digital has been an amazing partner, and they're a huge part of the revenue that we bring in.
I have a question, not to make this an Amazon information show or advertisement, but I was under the impression for my self-published stuff that if you go with the official Kindle Direct publishing program, you could not publish anywhere else via ebook.
That's only if you enroll in the Kindle Unlimited program.
Oh, is the Kindle Unlimited that I'm thinking of?
Yep. So we actually do have one title that is in Kindle Unlimited, but the rest of ours, so KDP is just a general, publishing platform. You don't have to choose Unlimited.
Okay, well, I'm embarrassed, but maybe there was somebody out there who was confused like me, so that was for them. I knew.
It's alphabet soup at this point. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say, again, not advertising for Draft to Digital, but Kobo has an unlimited program. So Kobo is the big e-reader up in Canada, but they've just signed a deal with Walmart to be Walmart's ebook distributor. So Walmart is plugging Kobo now. The Kobo Unlimited program is similar to the Amazon Kindle Unlimited, and it's not exclusive. So we distribute to Amazon non-unlimited, but Kobo Unlimited does really well for us in the military science fiction realm.
And is that still just in the Netherlands?
No.
Oh, I thought. Okay, last I heard, it had opened in the Netherlands. So we're all learning here today.
Yay! There's a lot of stuff to juggle.
Yeah.
So sorry for stealing your podcast to plug Draft to Digital. The other piece of it, Matt. So that's where we are in the digital space, and it's funny. We've been working at getting a traditional distributor for years since we started, right? To handle the print stuff. And a couple of times we had some offers, but they always wanted the digital distribution as well. And it's like, well, what can you do for me that I can't do? How can you help me sell more ebooks on Amazon? And they're like, well, we don't really have a program for that, but trust me, there's follow-on sales. I'm like, go away. So we actually have just signed with Baker Taylor Publisher Services to handle our print distribution. And they flat up told us, they were like, keep the ebook for yourself until you get so busy and overwhelmed that you want to wrap that in. But right now, it's better for you folks to keep that. So starting with our spring titles in 2019, we're going to be traditionally distributed. So ask for Parvus titles at your local bookseller and library.
Yay.
Yeah, let's not gloss over what a huge thing that is you just said. Parvus has a national giant distributor that's going to be putting out their books. How amazing is that? Does not happen with every indie pub, I feel like I can say fairly. Absolutely, and I'm excited to be part of the ride that you're taking us all on. I'm sure Rekka is excited to be part of that too. Rekka, are you excited?
I am fairly chuffed about it. I did not expect this anytime soon when we were originally negotiating contract. They were digital first at the time, and I was totally fine with that. And the print on demand to me seemed like a reasonable decision for an indie press that didn't have didn't have warehouse space. So, I was like, all right, cool, that's fine. It's not like I was going to go out and find a distributor. So that was not an expectation I had, and it's pretty exciting that it's happening now. So soon, yeah.
So Colin, since you opened that whole can of worms, I'd love to talk a little more about that. I think it's safe to say that if you have a small press or an indie press, like one of your major goals is, how do we get a big distributor and get our books in actual bookstores? Do you think that's a fair categorization? Just to start with.
Yeah, it's something that we're constantly asked when we put up calls for submissions. Is people are going, who's your distributor? Are you distributed? Everybody wants to see their book on the shelf of their local bookstore, right? Like, no matter how much we hear about how successful ebooks can be and all that, everybody wants to just tell Aunt Edna she can go down to her local bookstore and get your epic Jeff Goldblum Panther fantasy that's sitting there on the shelf.
Hang on, let me write this down.
I was going to say, we all need to collaborate on that.
All right, they were perfect. Collaboration. I was going to say, because dibs is going to be a tough fight.
No, we didn't start each other trying to get. Let's just all agree to work on it together.
Perfect. I think it'll be a really good collaboration.
I do too. I'm excited about it. I'm going to drop everything I'm doing. So yeah, Colin. So since that is a fair categorization, I think if anyone's out there and they are part of the small press operation in any pub, and they're asking themselves, how the hell do I get national distribution to get myself in bookstores? What do you think the keys are to getting to that point? You know, what took Parvus there, and how do you get to that? How do you get to that place where you want to be?
So what's really funny is when I started this company, I thought it was going to be the hardest thing on planet Earth to get distribution. And I'll tell you, just like there's predatory small presses out there are small distributors that just want more catalog, that are going to put no effort into your stuff. And just like small presses, right, that are out there that are predatory, these distributors want to lock up your rights, and they want to lock up your controls. So it was in some ways frighteningly easy. We've had a number of offers of distribution that the first one was super early. We had only released our first title, Vix Vultures, which is amazing. It's a military science fiction by Scott Warren. It combines the heart and love of Firefly with the action-adventure pacing of Mad Max Fury Road. If you like strong female protagonists and space battles, man, Vix Vultures is the book for you. Sorry, it's a reflex.
Very subtle. Very subtle.
I can't.
No, I love it.
Although I will confirm, it's a very good book. I enjoyed that one a lot.
Can't not do it. Sorry, guys. And a distributor that was reputable in the indie space, right? That they focused on indie booksellers, and they had a catalog that centered around nonfiction, et cetera. They were saying, "Oh yeah, we really want science fiction in our catalog. We'd love to distribute your books." And I was like, "But we've only done one book, and you're telling me that you're confident in the other, 4 that we've kind of got in our front catalog." So, anyways, we actually avoided it a little longer than I thought we would. And I feel a lot better about that decision. We've got a decent back catalog right now. We've got 4 titles that are all performing very well. We've got a strong catalog for next year. And if there is a little bit of a mistake and we take a wrong step on one of those releases, we have money coming in from the backlist that's going to help us recover from that. So what I would tell you as a small press, if you're looking at this, make sure that there's enough money coming in the door from your existing stuff to help you through any hard times, because it does get a lot more expensive.
That's great advice, man. Really, really solid. So you touched on briefly why you passed on that initial offer of distribution. Just to kind of drive this point home, because I think it's important, like, what are some things you would tell people to look out for in terms of predatory distributors and distributors you might not want to work with? Like, what are some of the signs or some of the things that you want to look out for to keep you from signing a bad deal too early on?
Yes, if they require your digital distribution rights along with your print, but they don't have a good answer for what they're going to do to help you sell more ebooks, all they're hoping to do is to take more revenue from your effort, right?
Right.
So that's not to say that handing over both makes sense, right? I mean, I fully expect that within 12 to 24 months, we're going to be too busy to handle the digital directly the way that we do now. And we'll pass that off to the distributor. But for now, we're not too busy. So any distributor who wanted those digital rights, they were going to have to show me that they had, for example, that they were spending money to advertise our ebooks, right?
Right.
And I got a response back from one distributor that, well, no, but we have the opportunity as a publisher to pay into an advertising pool that they would then use on Amazon.
Right.
I don't know how much of that advertising pool is going to my books. None of this makes any sense to me, right? So the other thing is to make sure that they're not way more overconfident in your titles than you are. I don't want to name any specific presses, but there was a science fiction press that didn't make it through they signed on with a distributor, and they didn't make it 12 months. And a large part of that was that the distributor was overconfident in stocking their books. So, hey, yeah, we want 2,000 copies printed because Barnes & Noble is going to buy a lot of them. Oh, wait, Barnes & Noble only bought 500. Right. Well, let's see what we're going to do with those other 1,500, right? You can do that with one book, but not 3 or 4. So that's the other thing I would keep an eye out for, is to make sure that they aren't. It's not their money they're playing with; they're playing with yours. So make sure that their expectations and your expectations line up properly.
Absolutely. And I think, like, as much as you need to look out for them being predatory, do you think it's also fair to say you need to check how fast you're expanding? Because I think everybody gets into it and they say we want to do all the books we can, we want to grow as big as we can, but there's definitely something to be said for taking your time and doing things properly and allowing yourself to grow at a rate that actually gives you a shot. Do you think that's a fair categorization?
Yeah, I mean, in the self-published world, there's a lot of talk about release cadence and keeping up your tempo, right? So get your books out there and pump them out and make sure they go. And you're going to build your audience that way, and that's going to have an additive effect on your whole list. And at least for us, right? I'm not telling everyone they need to operate this way, but I had 2 tentative schedules for 2019. One was we're not signing a distributor, and our costs are remaining relatively low, so let's get those books out there one after another, one book every month for a while. But the other was, okay, we're going to a distributor, the costs are increasing, and I need to know if the first book that we're releasing, if it looks like it's going to sell strong, before I have to make a decision on how much money I can spend on that second book. So we space things out a little more when we switch to distribution. So it actually slows us down a little bit, which isn't super exciting because I love the crap out of our books and I want everyone to see them. But it gives us time to react, right? And that's an advantage of a small independent press is we've got time. We can change things whenever we want. Moving to distribution, we're operating on everyone else's schedule, and we've got to be a lot more careful.
Right. It's interesting to me because, as authors, and I'm sure Mer and Rekka can back me up on this, we talk so much and agonize so much about how much waiting we have to do. You have to wait on responses, wait on all this stuff, and it's really terrible. I don't think we think about how that waiting also applies to the publisher side of things sometimes. It can be just as agonizing to have to lay back on things that you want to rush forward with and have to wait on those things too. We all have to wait a lot, I guess, is the point I'm making for no reason.
Yeah, I still think we suffer more.
Just understand that you don't suffer alone.
Okay, that's fine.
Just in different ways.
Yeah, I've got cover art for a book coming out in the summer by a guy named Christopher Ruz. He's an Australian author and he's awesome. So the book is The Ragged Blade, and the cover art is gorgeous and I love it. And I showed it to Ruz, and he's in love with it. And every week he's like, "When can we reveal the cover? When can we do it? When can we show everyone?" I'm like, "Chris, if I put it out there right now, no one's going to be able to click on it and pre-order the book. So we gotta wait, buddy."
Can I just, I want to do a small aside. Your enthusiasm for your books should not be something to comment on because it should be something every publisher does, but they don't. And so I will not say who this was, and I know they may be listening, so I hope they don't mind me telling this story, but I know someone whose publisher actually gave their book 4 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. And that's like, what, why? Do you not want to sell books? If you actually thought it was 80% instead of 100% good, should you have put it out? I mean, what was your mindset there? Dude, it was just baffling that the publisher did that.
As a professional marketer, which I am, I'm a little abhorred by that whole thing.
Yeah.
Can't even imagine. That's some unflinching honesty right there. I don't know what to tell you. Colin, would you ever give a book that you published?
Yeah, Colin, would you?
No. Yeah, no, listen, my job is to be the perfect fan of each book, right? Because I can't sell the book if I don't know who that right audience is. So I have to be that right audience so I know who to market the book to. You can't just throw a book in the world and go, everyone's going to love this, right? Everyone doesn't love everything. So, no, I mean, this is a lot of time out of my life and away from my family and away from other things that I could be doing. And, I have
enough review shenanigans without the publisher.
Yeah, I've got 5 out of 5
always are
every time, and Rekka would cut me.
Yeah.
Look, gently, but yeah.
Spork in the eye.
Just a little scar so you'd remember every time you looked at the mirror. That's the way you do it. That kind of actually segues perfectly into the next thing I wanted to talk about. And I'll ask you about this first, and then Rekka, we can kind of get the author's perspective on it. But so, Colin, you kind of took us through the life of your indie publisher and kind of the journey of that. I kind of want to talk about the life of an indie book. You know, can you take us through the process from selecting it to when it's published, and kind of how that whole process works from your end as an indie publisher?
So we have a very small team at Parvus, kind of full-time working across all aspects of the business is myself and Kaylin. We have an editor who's working with us right now by the name of Ryan Kelly. And then we have another partner who's more financially involved than anything else, a guy by the name of Eric Riles, who Rekka does not believe exists.
He may or may not exist. I have seen no true evidence, no convincing evidence.
There's a headshot of him on the website.
You know what? Stock photos are, a dime a dozen.
Trust
he did
me,
rate my book. Yeah.
I would not have paid money for that particular stock photo. So it's a very small team, and the way that we operate, so we open up for submissions about twice a year, and we go through. And just as a quick diversion, the very first time we opened up for submissions, it was met with a lot of skepticism, and rightfully so. We were brand new, and we were telling everyone we don't know what we're doing, but we think we'll figure it out. But the Reddit writing communities have been fantastic and supportive as far as, year over year, giving us a better response to the as they get to know us, to the calls for submissions. So I've really got to, thank the folks in our fantasy and fantasy writers and sci-fi writing. So shout out to you folks. So we winnow the list down. So Kaylin, as part of her role in acquisitions, winnows the list down initially and gets rid of books that probably aren't ready for publication yet, right? That need a little bit more time and they need a little bit more love from editors than we can really put into things. Because there's a lot that we have to do once we pick up a book. And that usually gets us down to about 2 to 3 dozen titles. And then the team then reads through those 2 to 3 dozen. And basically what we'll do is we'll read through the very beginning of a book and go, this seems interesting to me. I might want to champion this title. And at which point we'll just kind of email out to the rest of the group and go, okay, hey, this book, FLOTSAM, I'm really enjoying it. I'm about 100 pages in. Can the rest of you just double check me on this? Because we're time limited, right? There's this isn't a primary job for all of us. So we try and raise our hands early to make sure that the whole team can get behind and support a book because, that's when we're going to be at our most successful. Once everyone has done that, we get through and we cook all the way through to the end. If somebody loves the book, they're going to champion it and kind of take point on owning it for Parvus. Then, hey, there's a power saw going in my house. Sorry about that. Jeff Goldblum is adding some features here to the Pantheratorium.
Some new Panther doors.
Yeah, some new Panther doors.
They just keep breeding, know?
So what we'll do is I'll reach out to the author and I'll handle the contract negotiations and bring them in because I should be that stable point of contact for them throughout all parts of their journey with their book with Parvus. I introduced the author to the editor. The editor, meanwhile, has had an internal meeting with our whole team where we've all kind of come together to say, here's where we think this book shines, where it's at its best, and where the author should focus in the editorial process. We all kind of come together with a cohesive idea behind where we think the book can be in its best state, and the editor works with the author to get there. Once that process starts to come to a close and we get down to like nitty gritty editing, like, last line edits and things like that, usually by that time I've already done all the work to locate the cover artist and work through getting the art direction and the art in place. And from there, when the book is done, it's a minimum of 6 months, friends. Because it's got to go to layout, and the layout's got to get designed, and then we've got to print out the arcs, and we've got to mail the arcs out. You can't mail those too early, or you can't mail them too late. So the process is like, it's fast and then it's slow, and it's fast and it's slow, and there's activity and there's not. So it can be pretty frustrating to be an author in that system, but we try and keep it as painless as possible.
Well, speaking of that, we have an author here.
One of your author in the system. Yes, thank you.
So, Rekka, I would really like to hear you talk about, and especially to to prospective authors who might be considering going with an indie pub or dealing with their first indie pub? Like, what can they expect from that process in terms of like communication and the work and how everything kind of flows?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that even with indie publishers, I'm a little bit spoiled. I feel like any point in the year, I could send Colin a message, and the response time and the response will make me feel like I'm the only author in their stable. Which, yes, it's very, very nice. But I suspect from everything else I've heard and knowing how humanity works, that that's not always the case. So the process, of course, as I mentioned before, the first thing Colin had me do was pump the brakes on the production of the book that I was planning to release in order to, give them time to finish their process. So yes, there was a bit of waiting. I believe I submitted to them in February, and it was at the end of April that we had negotiated the contract and signed it. So then it was a little bit of quiet, which I expected. They had work to do on their side, and as I mentioned, at that point, their editor and my developmental editor were the same person. So and I was also planning to self-publish this, so it had already been through many, many rounds of my own revisions, and it was to the point where I thought that it was ready to go, and it was just a matter of getting all the production things in place that I wanted to do, and I didn't want to rush it. This was the book that I'd been working on for over 10 years, so I was going to take it slow and put the time into it that I wanted to. And I had the second book already drafted and in its own process of revision, so I just kind of returned my attention to that. And so it is not as though I was sitting there pacing or chewing my fingernails down to the quick to wait for the next message to come in from Parvus. So I also had already come up with the cover myself. So this was something that Colin and I worked into the contract, that basically like the artwork was something I had commissioned. So I was kind of
which, by the way, I was super scared of, because cover art is so important, and it's like, oh, I hope this is good, because it'll be a lot of awkward conversation if not.
Right. So so I was sort of like, as part of contracting the rights to Parvus, I was also including in that the rights to my cover art. And so in a way, there was some savings for Parvus on that end, except, with the trepidation of like, well, what is she going to deliver? Right. But the cover was, I think we finished the cover before long, like not long after the contract was signed. I mean, we were putting finishing touches on the cover artwork, and it was pretty satisfactory on both our sides, I think, more than satisfactory. And Julie Dillon. Yeah, Julie Dillon, who's won numerous awards for her cover art.
She's amazing, yes.
Yeah. So there's just, the color was like spot on. I was shaking the first time I opened it. And of course, I'm commissioning it from her. I'm supposedly art directing it, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
How are you going to tell Julie Dillon that she did not do a good job? I mean.
Exactly. So that process was very painless. We worked with somebody who knew completely what they were doing, and Colin had a little input toward the end there, which we added a splash of color in the foreground, and that just really solidified the whole thing. And then I happened to be a graphic designer, so Colin and I worked together on the titling, on the cover design as well. So yeah, it was probably a lot more involved than you could expect to be as an author with the publishing house of whatever size. But I think Colin knew what he was getting into with me, and that I was not going to completely give up control of, wherever I could be asked my opinion or insert my opinion. He welcomed it. And sometimes he would say, okay, well, here's why we're not going to do that.
Of course.
But other times, he's like, yeah, like I'll look into that, and then he comes back and either agrees or disagrees, and that's part of the risk of getting involved with other people in the production of your book, is that you're going to have to work as a team now, and that means more than one opinion at all times. So it has been extremely painless. With a couple of exceptions where I'd get a phone call from Colin going, okay, so I know we said we were going to release this in January, but for these reasons, we are now moving that to March. And I'd say, damn it, I understand your reasons. But I mean, I will also, as lucky as I am with Parvus, I think Parvus is kind of lucky with me in that I can see that this is a product. I've expected that things have to be marketed and details might have to change, and that it's all for the better. For me, the goal is to get as many eyes on it and as many readers who might enjoy it as possible. For Colin, of course, it's to sustain his business and support more books like this in the future. So we were all working toward the same goal, and I think with that mindset, it made it a lot easier anytime there were delays or silences or anything like that. Like, I understood there's a business on the other side of this, and it's not just about me.
Something I tell the team quite a bit is that when we're considering if we're going to hurt feelings by making a decision, first we consider the book, and the book doesn't have feelings, so it doesn't matter, and that's it, right? Like, whatever is best for the book is what we're going to do, and we'll work out all the other details.
I love all of that, and this is Ditch Diggers, Colin. We're all about the process of the business. So I have to ask, what were the delays? Like, what was the reason for the delays that Rekka's talking about?
Yeah, so first, I was a little aggressive on FLOTSAM and how quickly it would get out, because it was in such good shape when it came in. But then when we dug into it, there were still some changes that we did want made. Rekka was willing to change them, and that was all good. So we wanted to push just a little bit there. We had some other titles take a little longer to get through their processes, and since we have such a small team, we don't want to do everything stacked up too tight, because when we do that, we aren't giving everyone the attention that they need to be successful. It's really cold in February, and I don't think people want to leave to go find books. So, we were trying to get the book ready for a January release, and at the end of the day, it was just taking us too much time to kind of get everything 100%.
We did have a contracted third party who had trouble with the schedule, and that didn't make an impact.
We had a copy editor.
I wasn't going to call out what the person was
saying. I'm not naming any names.
Right.
And we had a copy editor who, interestingly enough, the industry that they worked in, what was the big hurricane that hit Houston?
Maria?
A couple years ago?
No.
Which one?
I'm thinking Maria, but I'm not sure. There have been a lot.
There have been a lot, sadly.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember it. I'm doing a quick Google. Harvey,
right.
So the copy editor worked in an industry, they were nowhere near Texas, but they worked in an industry where they got pulled into a surge response for Harvey and had to go down to Texas to work on stuff that was completely unforeseen. So we lost a lot of time because of that. And through that process, we had to kind of take the copy editing back in-house, because it was the whole time, it's like, well, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get back, right? And then after a while, we just said, all right, you're focusing on that, and that's cool. We need to have a backup plan and get things done on our side. So that definitely caused some delay for us. Like the copy edit process is incredibly tight for us, because we don't want a book sitting. When it's ready for just that final check, then we're scheduling a whole bunch of other stuff. We're scheduling, marketing activities. We're putting a firm release date on the calendar and all those things. So when we have like a 3-week disruption during that copy edit phase, it really kind of kills things. And we had to make a choice of, are we going to try and shotgun the book out, or are we going to take time? And we took the time. And I think that it was absolutely the right choice. We got the extra 2 months or so that we had working on the release, helped bring a lot more attention to the book. So it was the right thing to do.
My big takeaway from that was it was too cold to put a book out, but I'm sure the rest of the stuff he said was really smart too.
So I've got a question that may sound rude, but I'm pretty sure someone's thinking it, so I'm going to ask it. First, I want Rekka, and then let's get the publisher's point of view. And
Shit's about to get real, y'all.
Yeah. So how do you choose between self-publishing, indie publishing, and submitting to a large publisher?
Oh, so my conundrum was that I was writing something that traditionally, I did not expect to have a lot of support from traditional publishing. So it's genre hopping. It's, like, it's in the kiddie pool in terms of like choosing to professionally like pick a target audience and choose my market before I start. And I'd rather, beat at somebody with foam noodles than to like write something that I think is going to sell numbers based on that fact. So that's why I say kiddie pool. But so it's steampunk, but it's also space opera, and it's also sort of like a little bit trending toward epic fantasy, where it's just if I like it, I threw it in there, and I never concern myself with anything other than like, is this book the book I'm enjoying writing? And so to me, although I see it and I understand it's a product, I also, that aspect of it was something I was not willing to sacrifice and have somebody come back and say, like, we just want to pull this thread and unravel all this, and we're just going to focus on this, this category, this genre. And so, like, yeah, okay, bucket list, sure, I'd love to have something published by Tor someday, but it's not really my focus. I just wanted to take this book that I finally felt like I'd incubated long enough and it was ready to go out in the world. And I wanted to get it out there. And I didn't want to be on someone's calendar for 2 years away or whatever. It was just, it was something that I knew was ready. And it was something that I wanted my hands dirty in as well. Like, I wanted to be in up to my elbows in the process, which left me finding a small publisher who is willing to let me be that involved, or doing it myself entirely, and then being entirely involved with zero help other than, maybe being able to ask for advice from some of the, the authors groups and stuff like that. So for me, it was about like, what did I want for this book? Not like, am I going to set my goals on the things that other people tell me their goals are? And I didn't feel like those, common goals of getting a Big 5 publisher, I didn't feel like those were the goals I wanted for this book. They didn't match. So I was following my why, basically.
I like it.
Okay, so Colin, how from your point of view, why should someone choose indie over self or traditional?
Sure.
Why are you worth it, Colin? Why are
See,
you worth
that's
it?
why I said it might be a rude question, but someone's thinking it, and you had to go there, Matt. You had to
Colin,
go
what
there.
does she want me to say?
I am so worth it. Nah, listen, everybody, this is going to sound new agey and stupid, but everyone's got like their own journey that's right for them. So if you are diehard, I'm going to self-publish, right? And you want to go down that road and you're willing to put in the time, the effort, and learn and do the things and fund everything yourself, more power to you. There's a lot of people being very successful doing that right now. And go for it. Like, if you're certain 100% that self-publishing is the right thing for you, then it's the right thing for you, right? Like, that certainty is what you need to be successful. It's that same certainty I have that Parvus is going to be successful, that my small press is the right press for the books that we love. I know that we're the right people to pull that book together and to help that author get that book to be the best that it is. But don't send me your book if you're not interested in a collaborative process, right? Like, Rekka talked about how often we communicate. We're gonna call you as an author and ask you questions and say, hey, what do you think are comparable titles? What do you think? What do you like in covers? What do you like? So on the one hand, hey, that's great that we're respecting you and asking your input, but on the other, we're small. We don't have massive research departments and stuff like Hachette has or whatever, right? So, you've got to be willing to kind of work with us to pull these plans together and make this happen. If you want to turn things over entirely into a large mothership that's going to take your book and do what it does, and you just want a product at the end of it, without too much participation, I would say, yeah, go for those large publishers, right? That might not seem favorable to them the way that I described them, but listen, no mistake. I love some of the books that are coming out of, Orbit and Tor and Dawn, all those folks, they do some great work. Absolutely support them, right? But, we're the right publisher for you if we are. Have a conversation with us and ask us hard questions, and we'll answer them. And any small press that wants to publish your book should be willing to have a hard conversation with you, to be straightforward and upfront and truthful. And if they're not, then hold on to your book, because they're not going to take care of it.
Excellent.
No, you are that you are, Colin. You are that you are. No, that was great. I agree with all of that. I also think that may be a good place to end things on, Mer, unless you have more, because we're coming up on the hour rapidly here.
No, I think I'm good. Do we have any Twitter questions?
I don't see any, and I'm not sure we have time to go into them anyway. So I think we'll end on Colin's wonderful monologue just then, which I think should also be a T-shirt.
Villainous monologue. What?
Well, thank you very much.
Well,
this is I'm sorry, Mer.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I'm really, really glad that we had both of you on, and I think this was a really good, informative episode about an important part of this industry, and we may need to have you back to explore more areas of it in the future. I'm not sure.
I don't think we talk about it enough, so I think that's a great idea.
But first and foremost, Rekka, we need to know, the people need to know,
oh dear,
how can they get FLOTSAM in their lives as soon as possible?
Well, thankfully, it's been out already, and we're not talking about the future. It is available through parvuspress.com/FLOTSAM, where you can find the links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all your favorite digital retailers, and you can order. Currently, you can get it through Ingram Spark and Amazon's printing. So when that distribution comes on, then hopefully Colin will be calling me up at 9:30 at night saying, go to Barnes & Noble tomorrow. Go to Barnes & Noble tomorrow.
What Rekka forgot to mention is that you can also get the audiobook narrated by Mary Robinette Kowal of Mary Robinette Kowal fame.
I'm sure I was about to. Yes. I'm so sorry. Yes, Mary Robinette Kowal did an amazing job. And so that was an extreme treat. So thank you to Parvus for that.
That is amazing.
And to Mary, of course.
And it's Mary. What else can you say?
Yes.
We will have links to all of those things in the show notes. I cannot encourage everyone enough to go buy this book. Also, you'll be making me look good because, again, I do marketing for Parvus. It's my job to sell Rekka's book. So if you want to make me look good, you want to help Rekka, you want to help Parvus, it's a win-win-win, mini-win. So go buy the book. Rekka, where can we find you online? Is there any other pertinent information you want us to have about what you're doing? Please, feel free.
Yeah, sure. I'm at rjtheodore.com, and I am Bitty Bitty Zap on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on YouTube as RJ Theodore, and I do my daily morning writing session, video logs, and so you can see me without makeup every morning. And I'm also on patreon.com/RJ Theodore, where I am running a self-published serial novella series about an alien traveler who is trying to get home.
Very cool. You were doing all the things.
I'm doing all the things. Oh, I'm also a podcaster. I forgot about that.
Lots of hats like us.
Yeah, I'm a co-host of Hybrid Author Podcast with my my host friend Brian Williamson.
So if there are any questions about being a hybrid author that we did not cover here, they need to check out your show.
Yes, please. And I'd love to have you guys on sometime too.
Oh, sure. Twist our arm.
Yep, absolutely.
So, and Colin, tell us all about where we can purchase fine Parvus products beyond FLOTSAM, obviously.
Yeah, so you can get all of your favorite Parvus titles anywhere fine books are sold. And please, if you're worried at all about, hey, I've only got a couple bucks to spend on books this month, go down to your library and ask them to stock one of our titles for you, right? Library copies are available, and libraries are an amazing part of helping people become readers and discover, titles like ours. So that's my big plug for this week is libraries are amazing. Go to your library and ask for a copy of FLOTSAM. You can see us at Parvus Press, Parvus Press.com. Follow me on Twitter if you want to be bored at CW Coyle. Or
I'm glad he hired you for marketing, Matt.
There you go.
Thankfully, that's not the pitch he uses for me.
Yeah.
That's so great. I also want to echo the library thing. Ditch Diggers wholeheartedly supports libraries, and I don't know a single author who doesn't love to have their book read in a library.
Yeah.
So
don't trust anybody if they don't.
Absolutely. Colin, is there any other information you want to say about you or anything else you're doing?
Listen, this is what I do. I do Parvus, so check out Parvus books and support them. I don't have the talent that Rekka does.
Yeah, you don't have a SoundCloud link you want us to put out, or?
No, man. ParvusPress.com. Check out my amazing authors like Scott Warren, RJ Theodore, Meredith Griffith. We've got some cool books coming up this year by Nathan Sumption, Christopher Ruz. You guys are going to love the stuff that we've got in 19, so keep an eye on us, please.
Fantastic. Mur, you shill things now.
Me shill things. I have a book called 6 Wakes. It was nominated for some stuff this year. It is out. It is available for ebook and audiobook and paperback. And it's about clones and murder and space. No delis. Sorry, Matt.
There are no space delis.
There's also a book called Solo, the novelization, based on the Solo, a Star Wars story movie that came out this year.
I love how you say that so casually.
By the way,
it's just Star Wars.
Come on, dude. Whenever I don't mention it, you're like, would you just please... Just go ahead and you yell at me for not saying it, and then you yell at me for saying it wrong.
I'm sorry, but it's just, I can't get over the fact that you wrote the Star Wars novelization, the Solo novelization. It's just the coolest thing that's ever happened in the history of the world. So I just get a little... Yeah.
It really is, but I feel like being excited about it all the time would exhaust me, and also that would be boring.
Well, that's why you have me. I can be excited for you. Okay. You can be casual and nonchalant, and I will fanboy all over it.
So don't pick on her for being casual about it. That's what she was doing. She was opening the door, the cougar door, for you to the Panther door.
The cougar door is totally
Wait. Yeah. Celebrity opened the cougar door?
It just got weird. You made it weird. Rekka.
Okay, never mind. The biometrics have rejected me.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
Anyway, my website is merverse.com, where you can see that and all the other stuff I work on. I wear a lot of hats. Go, Matt.
In an unprecedented move, unprecedented for Ditch Diggers, I am only going to shill in my capacity as a marketing representative for Parvus Press. And I'm going to encourage everyone to go buy FLOTSAM, as recommended by Rekka here, and all the rest of the fine Parvus products that are available. And that's all I'm going to shill on this episode. I'm done shilling. Earning my money, Colin. Earning my money.
Gold bullion will be delivered shortly, Master Morris.
I enjoyed the hell out of having both of you here. Thank you, Rekka. Thank you, Colin, for being on the show.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
And Mur, bring us home, I guess.
All right. We'll see you next time, and we'll be... we got something special to talk about in December, but I think you and I need to work on that a little bit closer. But Matt and I are planning something. We'll see if it works. Teaser, yes. And you can find Ditch Diggers on all sorts of podcasts and my at my website, merverse.com. And we'll see you next time. You can support us at patreon.com/mightymur.
Ditch Diggers!
Theme song by Devo Spice. DevoSpice.com.